All right, folks, so moving on. Something that confused me. I explained this, but I didn't explain this, and I want to show you guys this to make sure you understand, because this really confused me, and I had to really think for a while and pray on this before the Lord showed me, that it was pretty obvious that we had been given a pattern to understand here. So something that confused me was when the Lord showed me that this was all going to begin to take place on Tabernacles this year, 2018. And as I said, Tabernacles this year begins in the evening of the 24th, which is next Wednesday. And it lasts, the seventh day of Tabernacles is Halloween, October 31st. So once the Lord showed me that that's when this all is going to begin, I said to myself, and then he showed me Daniel chapter 10. I was a little bit confused because when you read Daniel chapter 10, it clearly says that the 21-day delay is in the first month, and that it was on the 24th day of the first month was when the revelation came, when Daniel saw the man. And, I explained to you guys how what he actually saw was Barack Obama, meaning trying to usurp the throne of Christ. We all took the man that he saw clothed in linen, with gold upon his waist and everything. We thought that was Christ, but it's actually Barack Obama on the 24th day of the first month. So what I was confused about was I said, okay, Daniel was a very studious and astute Jew who knew the scriptures. He even tells you in Daniel chapter 9, the way he was able to come to understand things is because he had understanding of the books, from the prophecies from Jeremiah and everything like that. So I said to myself, well, why then, if this is all going to happen in Tishri, which is the seventh month, and God would not call Tishri the first month because it's not the first month anymore, he told Moses to switch the calendar, and so that the fall will now be the seventh month. So why in Daniel does it still say the first month? And then the Lord made me to understand it has to do with the fact that even though, as I explained to you, even though Daniel's 70th week did restart after the 4-year delay of the fig tree, which Jesus talked about the fig tree in Matthew 24, the fig tree, the delay to find fruit on the tree lasted until spring of 2017. What the Lord was showing me was that just as the judgment was scheduled to fall at unleavened bread in 2013, the delay caused it to stop until 4 years later when Daniel's 70th week restarted at unleavened bread in 2017. And unleavened bread is the first month. So when Daniel's talking in Daniel chapter 10, and he says a 21-day delay leading to the 24th day of the first month, he is referring to Nisan, the spring, because Daniel would understand that the first month on God's calendar is Nisan. So that's what the Lord had me to understand. It was supposed to happen. The judgment was supposed to then fall in the spring of 2017 after the 4-year delay on unleavened bread, which is the first month. That's why it said that in Daniel. But because of Trump's actions, as I talked about, delaying this until now an entire year and a half later, it will now begin in the seventh month. So what you see that I have here on the board is this, how God has shown that, in other words, what he was doing was, the reason he flip-flopped the calendar for Moses and didn't leave the calendar to start in fall, as it always has, because the calendar always started with Virgo, the Virgin. That's the beginning of the story, leading to the 12th month, which is Leo, which is why Leo is the end of the calendar, and then you get to Virgo again. And as I said to you before, the Sphinx in Egypt confirms that the Egyptians knew the correct counting of time began with the woman, which is why the Sphinx has the head of a woman, and the back of his body is a lion, showing that the calendar begins with the woman in the fall, going until the lion at the end, before the fall begins again after 12 months. So why did God have Moses switch the calendars and flip-flop the first month to the seventh month and the seventh month to the first month? Because God was showing the pattern that in the end times, because of the delays, what was scheduled, watch this, what was scheduled to happen in my first month, in God's first month, which is Nisan, is going to be delayed to where it's going to happen in the seventh month, which is Tishri. So now, as a confirmation of this, the Lord gave us all confirmation with the blood moon tetrad. Remember, we all came to learn so many things about the blood moon tetrad, but as you can see here, I have it laid out here, the first month and the 7th month, which is Nisan and Tishri. Remember that there were 4 blood moons in the tetrad, 2 in 2014, 2 in 2015. But the Lord had me to really look deeper and see when exactly were those blood moons. Well, as you know, the first blood moon was on each one was on the first day of the 7-day feast. Now remember, God has 7 feasts to his year, but only 2 of those feasts last for 7 days. They are unleavened bread and tabernacles. So the first blood moon was on 4/15/14, April 15, 2014. And that one was the first day of unleavened bread. Then 6 months later in that same year, October 8th, 2014, the blood moon was on the first day of tabernacles. So you see the 2 7-day feasts of God's calendar. Then you go to the following year, 2015, the first blood moon is on unleavened bread, on the first day of unleavened bread, April 4th, 4/4/15. Then 6 months later, the final blood moon of tabernacles, the first day of tabernacles, was on September 27, 2015, 9/27/15. So in consecutive back-to-back years, we have total lunar eclipses, 4 of them total, in each of the 2 years, 2014 and 2015, both all starting on the first day of unleavened bread, first day of tabernacles, then in the following year, first day of unleavened bread, first day of tabernacles. Now, what do these all have in common? It's all the 15th day. They both start on the 15th day of their respective months. Unleavened bread is the 15th day of Nisan, the first month. Tabernacles is the 15th day of Tishri, the 7th month. So the Lord was showing right there the pattern, just as he showed when he flip-flopped the calendar for Moses. He was showing the pattern that what was scheduled for the first month of Nisan is going to move to the 7th month of Tishri. And the judgment scheduled at unleavened bread, the delays will end and the judgment will fall on tabernacles in God's 7th month. Okay, so we see the 1 and 7 switch. 1, 7, 7, 1. We see the switch there. Okay, so that brings us to where we are now, because as I explained to you, all right, as I explained to you guys before, when we come to where we are now, in 2017, what we have is that 2/3 have been removed, as I explained to you before. All right, 2/3 have been removed. The judgment that was scheduled to begin after the 4-year delay, April 17th, 2017, it was April 17th and 18th, that was the 7th day of unleavened bread in 2017, was delayed because of what Trump did 4 days earlier on April 13th, when he signed the executive order allowing states to block funding for Planned Parenthood. So 2/3 of the judgment scheduled at that time was removed and cut off, leaving just 1/3 of the time. This was the beginning of 1,260 days, but 2/3 of that was removed, bringing you to Tabernacles 2018, which begins on October 24th, 2018. And at the end of the 21-day delay, taking you to the 7th day of Tabernacles, which is October 31st, Halloween 2018, that is when you come to just 1/3 remaining. Because 3 days after that, remember, in Daniel, the delay lasted from the first day of the month to the 21st day. That was a 21-day delay. Then there's 3 days of darkness, taking you to the 24th day of the month. So instead of the 24th day of the first month, Nisan, unleavened bread, it's the 24th day of the 7th month. I misspelled tabernacles here, sorry. But it's the 24th day of the 7th month, Tishri, the 7th day of tabernacles, leading to a 3 days of darkness to the 24th day of the 7th month, which is November 3rd. That is the 1/3 remaining. 1/3 of 42 months is 14 months. 1/3 of 1,260 days is 420 days. The 2 witnesses will begin prophesying on November 3rd for 420 days, or 14 months, until Hanukkah of 2019. Now, watch this quick confirmation, guys. Remember I explained to you how in Daniel, the 10:4, being that it's in Daniel chapter 10, verse 4, could point to October 4th. Remember I explained that to you, all right? Well, the Lord told me to look at something. And this one was amazing when I saw this. I was like, that's incredible that October 4th could be, considering that the Jews still call Tishri their first month, October 4th this year could be the 24th day of the first month, as in Daniel 10:4, 10:4, October 4th. The Lord said, well, go and look at when the two witnesses begin prophesying in Revelation. And guess what? When you go to Revelation chapter 11, watch this. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out. This is talking about the two witnesses. They are backslidden, or they do not have oil in their lamps, so they are to be left out. The court that is without the temple, outside the temple, leave it out and measure it not. For it is given unto the Gentiles, meaning the people of the world and the Antichrist and his system, and they shall tread on the holy city, which is the two witnesses. Remember, we are spiritual Jerusalem. We are the holy city coming down from heaven, adorned as a bride. We are the bride of Christ coming down from heaven. Part of that bride will be tread upon for 42 months. Okay? But that's shortened to just 1/3 is 14 months. 1/3 remains. Okay? But watch this. This is Revelation 11 again. Look at it. Look at this. Verse 3, and I will give power unto my two witnesses. So this is the same people he's talking about in verse 1 and 2. The same temple is the same thing. It's not something different in verse 3 as verse 1 and 2. It's the same thing in all three verses. It's the temple. But this is the left behind temple in verse 3. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Verse 4 said, these are the two olive trees and two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. They're the two pillars, Gentile believers and Messianic Jews, Christians and Messianic Jews that have been left behind. But the Lord said, look at where the scripture is when they begin to prophesy. Ready for this? Revelation 11:3, as in November 3rd. I mean, are you kidding me? 11:3, as in November 3rd. The Lord even put it in his word when the prophesying would begin. Revelation 11:3, and I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, which is just 1/3 is 420 days. It's in 11:3, chapter 11, verse 3, as in November 3rd. It's been right there in front of our face all this time, guys. I mean, this is truly incredible. So, I mean, I'm telling you guys, this is it. I mean, we are so close to these events going down. November 3rd is the start of the two witnesses prophesying. I'm going to get to some more stuff, but I just wanted to get that out of the way there so you guys can see the confirmations I've been given. I've been given so many confirmations, like it'll probably take me like 10 videos. And I know I keep saying I'm going to get to these confirmations. I'm going to get to it, but there's some things I just wanted to make sure everybody understands first. But I think I'll get to some confirmations of the 10:4 and other things like that in this next video. So, I mean, this is it, guys. We are down to a matter of just days left.